All right, before I get too far into this is from handling it. It looks a lot worse than it does on camera. Or it looks a lot worse on camera, I should say. Anyway, we've raised the exhaust here a little bit. Decent carbide finish going on. We've machined the squish band back. I got grease and a bunch of things. You'll see where I take a stone and I pull back the Nikasil. That just completely prevents it from chipping as I machine that back, and then once I get close to the shape I want, I'll go back and chamfer it again around the edges. It's just keep rings from hanging on it and wearing prematurely and things like that. Nikasil is very hard and the moly on the rings is not, so they all have to be chamfered back pretty well anywhere where the ring's going to pass it, just to prevent that. Another one of my random tricks to porting, I lubricate everything constantly. Clean it out, cut it, lubricate it, clean it out. What this does is it helps keep the carbide cool, and it helps keep aluminum from sticking to the carbide. And I cut at a fairly low RPM just to help prevent that too. But you can see, like, the grease still gets hot no matter what you do. It melts out in places. But yeah, I got probably a good hour left of chiseling away at this cylinder, and then we'll get to coating it. Okay, so you can probably still see a little bit of ink left there, which is less than 1/4 of a degree worth of timing, so I'm not in the slightest worried about it. But this will be probably the 4th time I've had this thing assembled on a degree wheel and pushing a piston ring up and down in here to exactly where I want my port timing to be and mapping everything out. I've made mistakes before where I've gotten a corner a little out of whack or something like that, and I just got a little bit too carried away. Didn't destroy the cylinder, but had to force me to re-engineer some things. Anyway, it's wise to periodically check where you're at and how far you're going, so I'll remap it out and draw everything out inside the cylinder a few times with the piston ring. Here's sort of what we got finished here. We haven't really had much of a discussion on polishing. Reason being, I'm not an advocate for it. We've long learned that a polished surface actually flows less. And it's not gross volume that it flows less, it's velocity. Everything wants to stick to the sides of a smooth surface. That's why you get beads left over on your windshield while you're driving and on your side windows and things like that. So that little bit of turbulence along the surface helps keep the fuel in the mix, and it's almost like a lubrication around the edge of your port where air has to flow freely across the surface of it rather than hanging onto it. It actually makes the radius on some of these corners where it turns a little bit lesser because it's going to slide around the corner instead of piling up like it usually does. There's a fair bit to it, but that's sort of where we're at. So once I map this out one more time to make sure it's exactly where I want everything to be, I'll finish cleaning this up and coat it. So this short video is going to kind of show you just how fast the system does do a relearn. If it takes longer than about 4 cuts like this for it to really start coming alive, you likely have a fuel solenoid issue. There is a little bit of latency when it comes to like dirty coils and things like that, or heat-soaked ones where it will take longer if the saw is already hot. But from cold, if you were to do the relearn procedure while cold, run it for a bit, it should only take 3 or 4 cuts and it'll clean right up. You'll see here where it runs fairly rich in the beginning. And then by the end, it really comes alive. I've got good throttle response again. It starts operating as it should.